Oh, I think that's working. There we go. Let's just put you up there. Good. Okay. Are we working? Can you hear me, more importantly? I think you might be able to see me. Right. Great. Hello. Hi. Lots of people joining. How are we doing? Can you hear me? Give me like a thumbs up. Yes. I hope so. How are we all? Are we well? I am joining you from Coventry. I'm currently isolating in Coventry at the moment. My name's Jen. I'm a theatre director, and I also run Shoot Festival, which is an emerging arts festival that supports artists making work in Coventry and Warwickshire. I'm sorry, there's two cameras because I don't have an iPad, so I might be flicking from Instagram to Facebook. So please excuse me if I'm doing a bit of this. Hope you're all well. So today I just wanted to thank the King's Head for letting me take part in their live streaming as part of KHT Online. And yes, please do ask questions. I've got my eyes on the comments. So yeah, feel free to ask questions throughout. I'm going to be talking to you a little bit today about the work that I make, and specifically making work in Coventry and the Midlands. So first things first, a little bit about me. So I am from Coventry, and I am, like I said, I'm a theatre director. I mainly work with new writing and work with emerging artists. I trained as a theatre director on the Birmingham Reps Foundry programme, and I'm also an associate artist with Theatre Absolute, who are also based in Coventry. I've directed work at the Birmingham Rep, the Belgrade Theatre, the King's Head Theatre, Vault Festival, assembly venues in Edinburgh, and also Warwick Arts Centre as well. So I've done a fair bit in the Midlands. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm also the co-artistic director of Shoot Festival with Paul O'Donnell. A little bit about Shoot. So we've been running Shoot since 2014, and we wanted to create a platform for emerging artists based in Coventry and Warwickshire. And this was sort of born out of Paul and I trying to find platforms at home where we were from after we left university, and there didn't seem to be a lot of scratch night opportunities or kind of opportunities for emerging artists in Cov. And so we set up our festival. And since 2014, it's grown. Paul O'Donnell. Yes, I've mentioned you, Paul. Since 2014, the festival's grown a fair bit. We've curated 4 festivals since 2014, and in that time, we've supported 73 artists across Coventry and Warwickshire, and we've reached around 3,000 audience members across kind of 6 venues in the city. And we've also been mentored as part of the Belgrade Springboard programme. So yeah, so we've been making work for quite a few years now. But my connection to the King's Head Theatre is slightly different. So in 2015, I decided to leave Coventry and I moved to London, and I trained on the trainee director programme, and I'm now one of their junior associates. And on the programme, I gained a real wealth of experience. I did assistant producing, I helped with programming. So I got kind of real hands-on experience in terms of directing, because I think what had happened is I'd done a lot of development work. So I did the Birmingham Rep Foundry scheme, which is brilliant, but it felt like that I needed some more on-the-job training to kind of give me the experience that I needed to move to the next stage of my career. And so since leaving the King's Head Theatre trainee director programme, I have been Adam Spreadbury-Meyer, the artistic director. I've been his associate director on Strangers in Between, which we took to Trafalgar Studios in 2018. The King's Head have also produced my work in Edinburgh before. So Sorry, a play I directed a few years ago, went to assembly venues. And I've been kind of working with the King's Head ever since. So that's a little bit about me and kind of what I've been doing. I should also say that I lived in London for about 4 or 5 years, and I actually decided to move back to Coventry last July. So I'm now back in Cov. The kind of work that I make is really centered around emerging artists, and new writers. So I love new work. That's kind of the kind of work that I make. And I'm also particularly interested in the female experience and putting women center stage. That's kind of the work that I'm most interested in. So yeah, that's a little bit about me and what I kind of have been up to over the past 5 or 6 years. I think, okay, what was my next point? Here's my notes. I'm always over-prepared. Right. How did you get started? I guess, yeah, like it was the 2 training programs at the Rep and then at the King's Head, and then also producing my own work. It's only recently that I started to get kind of contracts with theatres, or kind of, I've been asked to direct work. So yeah, a lot of it has been self-produced. What does my day-to-day life look like now? Okay, so recently Shoot Festival decided to launch a digital scratch night called Shut Down But Scratching. So we weren't due to make any work this year. We're a biennial festival, but we decided that because of the pandemic and what was happening to emerging artists, it was vital that we did something. And so a couple of weeks ago, we commissioned 10 theatre makers in Coventry and Warwickshire to make a brand new piece of work. And we then streamed it through our digital scratch night, which was a challenge, to say the least. Trying to stream from 10 different locations across lots of different art forms. And I think that's one important thing about Shoot, that we're really interested in reaching across the art forms. We don't just support theatre makers, we support musicians, and we also support visual artists. So it's like a real broad spectrum of people that we try and support. So it was very interesting trying to kind of make work and translate, like digital work and visual arts work, translate kind of on an online scratch night. So that was an interesting challenge, but we were really kind of, I guess, we were driven by the fact that there's been a lot of publicity recently about the impact on venues, which is of course so important, and we need to kind of recognize what this pandemic is doing to venues. But also I think what's happened is that the knock-on effect of these closures has had an impact on those artists that rely on them, and that's kind of been completely forgotten. So, and there's also a lot, as we've seen on in the government briefings, there's been quite little support available for freelancers, especially if you've only just started. So if you don't have 3 years of taxes, it's pretty challenging to be an emerging artist right now. So I guess that's also what I wanted to talk to you a little bit about today, because that's what I'm kind of have quite a bit of experience in. So yeah, kind of what are we doing now, and how can we support early career artists at this time? In terms of the pandemic and the kind of the impact it's had on me personally, is that I've had some directing work cancelled and some projects postponed, but I am still working on an R&D at the moment for next year, so that's kind of keeping me going at the moment. So yes, so early career artists are making work in the Midlands. I should say as a caveat, it says the title of this kind of chat is making work outside of London. I can't speak for the whole of the UK when it comes to making work I guess I wanted to just give a different perspective of someone who has also worked in London, but then also, you know, I work a lot at home as well, and what that's like. I don't forget to ask me questions. I feel like I've been really rambly, so yeah, feel free to kind of, you know, chip in at any point. I'm just making sure I haven't missed anything. I don't think so. Everyone's giving me lots of waves, which is really nice. Oh dear, technical hitch. So something that really struck me today while I was kind of going through theatre Twitter, which can be a little bit dangerous sometimes because you find yourself in a bit of a wormhole. Vinny, I don't know if you know him, but Vinay Patel, who's a brilliant writer, tweeted this earlier, and it kind of really struck with me, and I think it's kind of a really good thing to kind of ponder on today. So he tweeted, thinking of all the artists just starting out or tentatively making that next step. As a very uncertain and unconfident writer, if my first Fringe run got axed last minute, I don't know if I'd have been able to stomach the arts and would have run for the securest life I could find. But know that your work remains meaningful and will find its way into the world. I reckon every story that gets made is exactly the story at least one person was waiting to hear to make sense of their life. So please hang on in there. That person will need you more than ever after this. So yeah, it just really struck me about, you know, what is happening to early career artists at the moment. Who are they? Also, what does that term even mean? I always kind of have this struggle between like early career and emerging, because emerging, you know, it's something we say at Shoot Festival, the work that we make, that emerging doesn't necessarily mean young. You can be emerging at any point in your life. So in terms of kind of what Shoot Festival does with early career artists, so like I said, we're a biennial festival. We run every other year. We have kind of two strands to our program. So there is kind of the very emerging grassroots level strand, where we give them £100 and they perform a piece of their work in the Shopfront Theatre in Coventry. That's very new stuff. Some of it might never have been seen before, and it's, you know, very grassroots, and it kind of, it's a test. It's for them to, it's a testing ground essentially. It's a place for them to experiment. And then we do the same kind of platform for musicians and visual artists as well. So they have kind of this testing ground for them to show new work. The festival itself is free, so anyone can attend. They can just, you know, you can nip in and just see what's happening in the Shopfront Theatre. It's a wonderful venue in Coventry if you've never been. And then the other strand is we offer commissions. So we'll do a call out to the artists who've worked with us before, and we'll offer them a commission of, say, £1,000 or £2,000 to make a new piece of work. And that's kind of the next level. And we platform that at the Belgrade Theatre, which is a wonderful, like our brilliant regional theatre in Coventry, and also the Tin Music and Arts, which is a wonderful music venue in Coventry. So yeah, so we offer kind of two elements to our kind of festival. And then we also do workshops and industry panel chats. So we kind of get people in from, we've had people in from Warwick Arts Centre and the Birmingham Rep and the RSC, and of course the Belgrade Theatre, who come and watch the work, because I think we see ourselves as a stepping stone organisation. It's just Paul and I that run the festival, so there's only the two of us. And so what we're kind of interested in is how we can take those artists at like an early career level, and then what opportunities can we give them next? You know, there's only two of us, there's only so much that we can do, but how can we introduce those artists to the bigger organisations who have more resources? So that's sort of what we do with Shoot Festival. Something that I've been thinking a lot about at the moment, which may or may not be interest to you, like please say, is that I think at the moment, because there's lots of the arts community from larger organisations on furlough, we've sort of been having a think about how we might link up those members of the arts community from established venues with early career artists, because as it said in Vinay said on Twitter today, like, it's such a difficult time to be an early career artist because everything is so unknown. Those funding pots for new grants are completely closed up. So how can they make work? It's pretty tough out there. So perhaps there's something in breaking down those boundaries between venues and early career artists. And I know there's a lot of online content out there at the moment, but how can you get to know your local venue in quite a personal way? Because I think that's something that I found really important in my career, is that I have nurtured really close relationships with the venues nearby, and I think sometimes there can be a lot of miscommunication between venues and artists, because I think as an early career artist you might think, oh well, they've got all this funding and they should program my show, and they don't quite understand the challenges that venues face at the moment. And equally from the emerging artist side as well, it's, if you don't respond to their email or you don't respond to the script that they've sent you, that can be quite a damaging experience. So I think one of the good things that we do at Shoot Festival is that Paul and I understand what it's like to be early career, and that's sort of kind of how the way we treat our artists is the way that we'd like to be treated, and that that's just good practice. Has anyone got any questions? I'm just gonna have a look. No, I hope this is relatively interesting. Birmingham Drama, they're great. Anything else? No, not at the moment. Feel free to ask, please do. Right, okay. The next thing I was going to just have a chat about is, what's it like making work in Coventry? It's brilliant. I think it's changed a lot over the past 5 years. So like I said, I moved to London in 2015. I think when you're a smaller organisation, working in a city like Coventry, I think you can really punch above your weight sometimes. I think you can move faster and you can get things done quicker sometimes. There seems to be a bit less red tape. I think it's important when doing anything, whether that's in London or the Midlands or wherever across the country, it's just about thinking, this sounds really business-like, but what is your USP? What is the thing that's unique about you and the work that you make? Because there's definitely, there's probably lots of unique things, and it's just about honing in what that is and being clear about what that is with the work that you make. So with Shoot Festival, we've always been really clear that we support artists making work in Coventry and Warwickshire. And some people might say, well, why don't you branch out, or why don't you start thinking about the Midlands? And there's some brilliant scratch nights and other platforms like Pilot Nights and the work that China Plate do that look at the rest of the Midlands. So I don't think so they've already got that and they're doing that brilliantly. So I think it's important for us to kind of just concentrate on what we know, and support those artists in Coventry and Warwickshire. I think also in the past 5 years across the Midlands in general, there's been a unifying across the independent sector. It's changed hugely since I lived here in 2015. So moving back, yeah, I think that the sector has it's really started to unify itself. What else did I think? How's living in the Midlands changed the way I work? I think on the flip side of that as well, it can feel like quite a small pool sometimes. So yeah, I think the pool can feel a bit small. So if you're working as a director, for example, it might be harder to get the assisting opportunities than it would be in London, because there's just a lot less theatres, and some of those theatres might be taking touring companies, and therefore they don't have assistant roles available. So, there's two sides of the coin to everything. And I think my chat today isn't about what's better or what's kind of the most successful. It's about what works for you, really. And like I said, I can only speak from my experience of making work in Cov. Has anyone got any more? Please ask me questions. I'm feeling a bit lonely. No, I don't think I've missed anything. Nope. Okay, Shadi's asked me a question. What are the best ways? Okay, so Shadi's asked, I really loved your point about getting to know your local theatre. What are the best ways to do this, do you think? By applying for training schemes, or potentially just reaching out directly as a creative? I think both. When we first set up Shoot Festival, we Paul and I didn't really have a clue what we were doing. I'm going to be honest. We just decided that we'd seen this gap in Cov. We didn't see, there wasn't any kind of emerging arts kind of festivals taking place, and so we just sort of jumped on that, and we emailed the Shopfront Theatre, run by Theatre Absolute, Julia and Chris, and they were so kind and just gave us a meeting, because we emailed out of the blue and said, look, we've got this idea, can we have a chat with you about it? So I think it's just taking that chance, and yes, absolutely looking at the all of so many theatres have these brilliant emerging artist schemes, and so do check them out, email them about email about them, and also go and see their work. I think this actually took me quite a long time to figure out, but if I'm applying to an arts organisation for, I don't know, an assisting role, or an emerging arts scheme, or something like that, if I haven't seen work there, I don't know how, that doesn't really prove that I'm interested. So I do think it's important that you go and see the work at the theatres that you're approaching. I know you can't see everything, and also the financial implications of that as well can be tough, but I think it's really important to engage with them directly, and you need to have a knowledge of their program as well. Like what do they like making? If you're really interested in new plays, but you're approaching a theatre that only does classic text, I don't think your kind of your motivations align. So just be aware of that, I guess. And they're all super friendly, and it just might take a lot of knocking on doors for a while. So yeah, that would be my advice. It would definitely be both. Apply for the training schemes, and just reach out and say, hey, I saw this production of I don't know, Hamlet. It was amazing, and it's really inspired me. Could we have a coffee? So yeah, I think that's really important. What else did I have? No. Okay. I guess one of the things that I found really interesting as well about making work outside of London is that being a freelancer can be a really transient experience, and you can feel quite alone. And I think this time more than ever, it can feel a bit scary. And there's something about when you make work in one location, wherever that location is, you can start to form real relationships with that, community. And I think that's something that I've been kind of looking at over the past few months, is this idea of art as activism. And what does my piece of work, whether that's a workshop or a play, or how does that impact my community, and what does it say about the community that I'm making work in? So yeah, I think it can really ground yourself and the work that you make, and I think that's really important. I should also touch on this idea of being regional and what that means. I think I find the term regional quite problematic, because it suggests that areas outside of London are regions, and it sort of promotes a bit of a London-centric mentality, and I think that can be quite dangerous. And so I don't know what the solution is to that. I think it's just being honest about what that might mean. And all I can say is that being from Coventry is a huge part of my identity, both professionally and personally, and I'm really open about that. James has asked me a question. Okay, what do you think this current situation will mean in terms of the City of Culture programme in Coventry next year? Right, so if you didn't already know, yeah, Coventry is City of Culture next year, which is super exciting. We've been working on this for a long time. I don't officially know what's going to happen. I'm not part of those conversations, but I do think it's really important because I think there's elements of digital that we need to explore in terms of next year and how we reach our audiences digitally. I think this idea of being together again, how are people going to feel about being together in large groups? That's quite challenging. And I think, yeah, it's definitely a challenge because we just don't know where we are at the moment. And I know that the City of Culture Trust are eager, planning lots of different strategies of how we make work next year. In terms of Shoot Festival and what we're doing, we are still planning, hopefully, to do something next year in the spring. But we're also just, considering how else we can reach emerging artists if we're not able to, be with them in close contact with them. I think it also presents a really good opportunity of coming together as well. I think we are all going to be so in need of a party. And I think, City of Culture does present a celebration for us. And so hopefully there will be ways that we can all come together. I think also that, some good theatre news as well. The brilliant Imagineer, who are an outdoor arts company based in Cov, have just announced that they've managed to secure £2.5 million. I think it's 2.5, around that, of funding to create a new arts hub in an industrial estate in Coventry. So huge shout out to those guys. I know it's been a really long road, but we're so excited for the hub to open next year. So that's going to be brilliant and will support so many people across the city. Just let me know if there's any more questions and I will come to you. I guess this is where I wrap up a little bit and I'll give you some Midlands shout outs about what's going on at the moment. Well, you need to watch Shut Down But Scratching if you haven't already, and that's on the Shoot Festival YouTube channel. We've also got accessible performances as well. So we created some audio described, captioned and BSL interpreted versions of the night. So yeah, there's lots of ways to access that. The Bee Festival have launched their digital program today and it looks brilliant. There's free performances, workshops, discussions, films, music. Check out what Bee Festival are doing. It looks incredible, and it's called Be At Home Festival. Just to be clear, it is definitely online. China Play have also released some really interesting webinars called the Digital Darkroom, which kind of looks at how artists and producers working on studio to mid-scale productions think about digital content. So how do we make work in this new world? And also, the lovely Paul O'Donnell has also started creating a list of free online resources and tools. So he's created a spreadsheet, which I will send to the King's Head, which they can tweet or Facebook out, of lots of different tools that you can access for free online at the moment. So there's like video editing software, DJing software, image editing, and some organizational kind of tools and training as well. So I will get the KH to tweet that out. Because I think it's really important that, we have access to these tools, especially if they are free. I think that's everything. Thank you so much for watching. I hope it was interesting. And feel free to, tweet me or Facebook me if you have any more questions about Shoot or the work that I do. And also don't forget to follow the King's Head as well, and keep in touch with their KHT online sessions. There isn't one tomorrow because it's the bank holiday and VE Day, but check out what they've got going on next week. And thank you so much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed it. And like I said, feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions about making work in Cov. Okay, thank you. Keep well, keep safe, look after yourselves, and I'll see you all soon.